Chinese government. I want to go right to former Secretary of State, CIA Director Mike Pompeo, our senior counsel for global affairs. So, Secretary Pompeo, it does look like the trip is moving forward as we speak. That threat was put forward by China on Twitter. They actually did flag it on their social media because it was calling for the killing potentially of the third-ranking U.S. Elected official in our country. But are you surprised that after all the pressure, not just from China, but from the White House, Secretary Pompeo, that she's going forward with this as of now?
Well, I'm not surprised terribly, but I am pleased. I think it's the right answer.
Looks like we got a little few.
It would be. I'm sure you hear me.
Yeah, we'll reconnect. We'll reconnect with you, Secretary Pompeo, in just a minute. Might have been just a cell phone connection issue. And folks, this is what I want you to understand. They are threatening. It's a very specific threat. It's if you are escorted by military fighter jets, that will allow us to take down both the fighter jets, and if we can't obstruct them, we're going to actually try to. We would dispel of Pelosi's plane. I mean, take out all the politics of this. So, Secretary Pompeo, let me go back to you. You said you're not surprised, but the White House, I have a feeling up until this may happen on Wednesday, I feel like their pressure campaign is going to continue, and so is the Chinese Communist parties.
I think that's likely true, but I don't think the speaker had any choice but to continue with the program. She had made a promise that she was going to get there. And to walk away from that now would be the kind of feckless, weak leadership that America can't afford. It would have created enormous risk. Chinese would have felt there was a victory, that they had convinced a third-ranking American that she couldn't go to an independent, sovereign state. Make no mistake about it, Jordan. It would be a big mistake if she were to cancel that trip as she sits there in Asia today.
What do you think about the rhetoric? That we're going to dispel of your plane if you're taken in by protection by the U.S. Jets, and it looks like they're kind of coming up with, how could they possibly get into something with the United States? So they're going pretty far and pretty specific on what they would do if you do this. But do you think either way the Chinese may try and pull some kind of show of force, not necessarily shooting down planes, but some kind of show of force?
Jordan, I do think that they will. In some sense, they already have. They conducted a live fire exercise not far off of Taiwan these past 48 hours. I'm certain they'll continue that kind of bluster, those kinds of threats. I'd be very surprised if they did anything remotely close to what was in that tweet, what was in that statement. It almost looks a little bit desperate to me that they put that out in advance, trying to basically test the Biden administration and see if they'd push forward with this. And it's important, too. It's important for everybody who's listening to know that China asserts something in that tweet. They assert they have the right to do that. That's false. That's fundamentally false. Taiwan is not part of China. It has never been part of China. And for them to say that they can expel an American leader from Taiwan when she chose to go there is just not true. And so we should not permit them to get away with that kind of propaganda, those kinds of falsehoods. And we shouldn't reward this kind of bellicose, belligerent behavior.
Is there any way that the White House could try to respin this now, if she does move forward? Or at this point, are they the ones who look foolish at the end of the day if this moves forward and she's able to make the trip safely?
They'll try, I'm sure, Jordan, as they have tried so often. In the end, the president's public statement saying that the military didn't think this was wise is the statement that everyone will know was true, and that they were discouraging Speaker Pelosi from making this trip. So my guess is that they will continue to look, frankly, weaker than the Speaker herself does. I hope that we're taking all the right precautions. I hope that we're proceeding just as we would have proceeded had that statement not been made. So we have all kinds of security protocols. We should follow them. We shouldn't do anything that exceeds that. We shouldn't do anything less than that. We should treat this as we do with all senior leaderships from American senior leaders.
You tweeted this morning, this is something we've been looking at too, especially at ACLJ and ACLJ Action, is that CCP, the Chinese Communist Party controlled entities, buying up American farmland near U.S. military bases. You got two issues there, control of our food sources and spying on our military bases. And you talked about how, as Secretary of State, our diplomats in China can't even go to the grocery store without someone following them. Do you think that there are so many ways, systems in our government that are supposed to check on this kind of foreign investment? And we have foreign investment, we have CFIUS, we have all these different ways to really look into who is investing in what and why. And it just seems like they have been totally asleep at the wheel when it comes to China. It's like, well, just look the other way.
This is what I think we've spoken about before, Jordan, is that their language, their rhetoric, their tough on China rhetoric is not being delivered upon in their actual execution. To allow a project this to move forward is really bad for every American citizen, not just those in North Dakota, not just our service members, but for all of us. And this isn't disconnected from this issue with Taiwan. It's about America's posture in the world, our ability to deter the Chinese Communist Party from its continued aggression. And the point I made this morning was the simple fact that it's not reciprocal, that the Chinese can move about the cabin here in the United States and buy up agricultural land near our military bases. And an American company that tried to do the same thing, or an American diplomat who even tried to travel to a place like that, would be denied the ability to do that. That's foolish. It is naive. It's frankly been American policy for 40 years, and we've got to fix it. We've got to turn it around. We began to do that when we were on watch. I pray that every administration after ours will do the same and just demonstrate American resolve to protect the American people.
I mean, it seems like China is looking for a reason to start the fight. I mean, trying to pick the fight. I mean, at this point, is that an accurate read? I mean, does Chinese really want to get into it or test, I guess, what the U.S. would do if they did something with Taiwan?
Jordan, I think they're probing. I think you've got it exactly right. I think they're testing. I think they're seeing if we will bend to mere words, or if we will bend to ship sailing in a place that's not supposed to. Whatever it is, I think they will continue to press their gaze until they meet steel, until they meet resolve. We saw this with the Iranians. We saw this with the North Koreans. They would bluster. They would say things. But the moment America showed resolve and demonstrated that we were going to protect America, we weren't going to send the 82nd Airborne or the 101st, but we were going to do things that would impose costs on them. Once they saw that, they began to respect America, and they stood down in some of their most belligerent behavior. The Biden administration needs to do the same thing with respect to China. And if we do, they'll begin to behave in a way that's more consistent with what we want them to.
One item unrelated, but tomorrow, the final for you, in Kansas, your home state, and where you represent as a member of Congress, the individuals, not their legislature, but individuals can go vote, and they can vote yes on the Value Them Both Amendment. They're kind of the first state in the country where it's not just legislators or courts or elected officials having a say on this post-Roe world, but in Kansas, they're going to kind of lead the way on who's more engaged, and I think it's going to be a very close vote, we know, tomorrow, and I know you're encouraging people to get out to vote there.
Boy, Jordan, I hope every Kansan will. Whether you're in Kansas, you've got a mail-in ballot from someplace, please vote. Value them both. This is a simple piece of language that allows the people of Kansas to make decisions about what restrictions will be put in place with respect to abortion. We don't hand it off to our elites. Instead, we let people make these choices. It's what overturning Roe permitted, and I hope everyone will get out tomorrow and support this amendment, which gives the people of Kansas the right to make decisions about how they're going to protect the unborn. That's really important.
We appreciate you joining us, Secretary.